We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. Not Aristotle, by the way. Credit to Will Durant for that one. We've all heard this quote, and it's pretty simple when you think about it. Your ability to achieve anything isn't down to one act or one day. It's the culmination of hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of micro decisions, these little things that we repeat over and over again to get us to where we want to be. Someone with a great physique didn't get there with one trip to the gym or one single workout. In fact, to attribute it to just going to the gym doesn't really do it justice. It's eating healthy meals, it's getting adequate rest, it's managing to balance your work and personal life. All of these things, repeated enough time, develop into habits, and these habits can either serve us in positive ways, but also in negative. So for this video, we're going to stick with the idea of getting in shape as an example, but keep in mind that what I'm going to tell you today can be applied to any walk of life. So anything you want to achieve, from building up a new business to learning a new skill, or anything that you feel is going to bring value to your life, you can apply these basic principles. So here's a few ideas on how you can build habits and, most importantly, get them to stick. First, use micro habits. We have to keep in mind that we need to start small. Taking our example of getting in better shape, if we try to change everything overnight, going to the gym, eating good meals, getting a good amount of sleep, balancing our work and family life, we are trying to take on way too much way too soon, and we're setting ourselves up for failure. Start with a micro habit. One small change that we can build on and develop over time. The problem is that we want things fast. We want that great new body now. And we think that if we change everything straight away that we will get there faster. But the hardest part is being able to maintain that in the long run. And that's the reality that we need to face. It's all about maintenance over a long term. So if you change everything and you fall off the wagon again and again and again, you're not going to get any real progress. We often overestimate our future self and what they're capable of, or we simply ask way too much of them. So when choosing your micro habit, think about the one that's going to have the greatest impact. If you've never exercised a day in your life, then starting to introduce some exercise is going to have a dramatic effect on you. If your diet is absolutely terrible, starting to eat more fruit and vegetables or drink more water, you're going to see a big difference. So let's say we're starting with introducing exercise. Again, don't rush into doing a 5-day weightlifting split with cardio afterwards, including a stretching routine, foam rolling, a spin class, and some yoga. You're asking way too much of yourself, and you're not going to be able to maintain it over the long term. Let's start with going for a walk. And let's keep it short. Let's get in the habit of going for a 15-minute walk once a week on the weekend. If you can do that for 2 weeks, crank it up to 30 minutes. If you can do that for 2 weeks, turn it into a light jog. If you can do that for 2 weeks, then introduce a second day where maybe you do some press-ups and some sit-ups. I'm not here to give you a workout plan. What I'm trying to drive home here is that we need to get little wins along the way. It's not enough to just introduce all these painful expectations of ourselves and then not get any reward back for doing any of it. So be kind to yourself. Don't ask too much. Start really small, get the win, and then build on it each time. If you can build the habit of going for a 15-minute walk once a week, you give yourself that little win, which you can then build upon slowly over time. And I know you're thinking, well, what's a 15-minute walk going to do? To your body, probably not a lot. But to your mind and your ability to maintain the habit of exercising on a Sunday,
2 very enthusiastic thumbs up. Fine holiday fun.
If you set the target sky high from the start, then you're only setting yourself up to fail. And this failure is going to lead to disappointment, which is going to lead you to go back to your old ways. Second, figure out what's being added and subtracted to build this new habit. We all have a finite amount of time and energy throughout a day. Think of it like 4 gas burners on a hob. One for your hobbies, one for your work, one for your relationships, and one for your health and well-being. You have to distribute this energy out through these 4 hobs. If you turn one down, you can turn one up. If you turn one up, you probably have to turn one down. One can be completely off at times, and one can be burning red hot. If you want to spend more time working out and preparing healthy meals, then this time and energy is going to need to come from somewhere else in your life. Hopefully from something you value less. For example, watching Netflix or spending too much time playing games. What's important is to establish this from the start, because if you don't make a conscious decision about where this time and energy is going to come from, then it's going to be done for you. You might find that you default to giving less energy to your family or putting less effort into your work. So yeah, you might be getting into better shape, but suddenly you find yourself sleeping on the sofa. Really, what it all comes down to is our values. Why do you want to do this? Why is it important to you in your life? And making conscious decisions about where we value putting our time. Establishing this from the start will greatly improve your chances for success. It also grounds your ideas and choices in reality. So it makes you look at what you can really feel you can achieve and what you really want, because we might talk about eating healthy meals, but maybe you don't really value that as much as you do value eating foods that you really enjoy. And that's okay, but it's just important to be honest with yourself so that we don't beat ourselves up about it over time. Third, learn how to manipulate the habit loop. All habits, whether we are conscious of it or not, fall into what is known as the habit loop. And this loop has 4 stages, regardless of whether or not the habit is beneficial to you or not. 1, the cue. The cue is the thing that triggers our need for the habit. So for example, you walk into the kitchen and you see a box of biscuits. 2, the craving. The craving is the thing you want to do when you're triggered by the cue. 3, the response. The response is how you act on the craving. 4, the reward. This is what you get from acting on your craving. So here you get to enjoy the sweet taste of the biscuit in the short term. Now, as I said, this habit loop can be both beneficial or extremely damaging. In this instance, the short-term pleasure of eating the biscuit might not outweigh the long-term damage it does from weight gain, development of diabetes, heart conditions, etc. And again, eating one biscuit one time is not a problem. The issue is if it becomes a long-standing habit and does damage over the long term. So keeping this in mind, there are 2 ways we can use the habit loop. One is to build new good habits. So let's take a good habit of I want to eat more fruit during the day. So the cue, we need to make it obvious. Get a fruit bowl and put it in a prominent place in your kitchen. The craving, we need to make it attractive. So pick fruits that you enjoy, get loads of different colors, make sure that they're fresh, make sure they're good quality, and arrange them nicely so that it looks attractive. Remember, we eat with our eyes before we eat with our mouths. The response, make it easy. Have these fruits in a prominent place in your kitchen that's easy to access, that you walk past all the time. For example, your kitchen table. The reward, make it satisfying. Now, this requires a bit of a shift in mindset. So instead of thinking, I don't want to eat this apple, you need to focus on all the positive things associated with eating the apple over eating the biscuits. Okay? All the health benefits that we get, all the calories that you save. Focus on the positives rather than dwelling on your perceived negatives. Now, you can also see this as being inverted to break a bad habit. I want to eat less biscuits. The cue, make it invisible. Get rid of the biscuits. Don't have them in your house to be responded to in the first place. The craving, make it unattractive. You're now required to go to the shop if you want to get the biscuits. So if you have that moment where you walk into the kitchen and normally you see the biscuits, you eat the biscuits, that's not the case now. Now you don't see them, and if you still want them, you now need to leave the house to go get them. The response, well, this is now made difficult because you now need to make the choice about whether or not you're going to go to the shops to get them to then come back and eat them. The reward, well, this becomes unsatisfying. You can't be bothered to go to the shop, Therefore, it's not really worth it to eat the biscuits. Now, we all know that this isn't always the case, and sometimes you are going to go to the shop and you are going to eat the biscuits, but what we are doing is we're putting some barriers to entry in the way. We're making it just that bit more difficult to get into that habit loop, which means we have a better chance of breaking it. Just remember, every goal we have for ourselves is doomed to failure if it goes against the grain of human nature. We have a predisposition to move away from pain and move towards pleasure. So take your time when choosing to make new habits. Make sure that they bring pleasure into your life, or they're going to move you away from pain. If you do this, then your mind is naturally going to go along with what you've got planned for it. Whereas if the ideas are painful to you or are trying to take things away that you find pleasurable, well, your mind is going to resist. So whether it be trying to build new habits or break old ones, just keep these 3 things in mind. Start small, micro habits that you can build on over time. Always keep in mind that something has to be taken away and something has to be added, and this should be based on your values. And finally, make sure that you use the habit loop and manipulate it to your advantage to make these new things stick. And as always, take care of yourself.